Department of Pharmaceutics. Today we are going to see the topic of protein binding. The interacting molecules are generally the macromolecules such as protein, DNA or adipose. The proteins are particularly responsible for such as interaction. The phenomena of complex formation of drug with the protein is called as protein binding of drug. As a protein-bound drug is neither metabolized nor excreted, hence it is pharmacologically inactive due to its pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic internals. Protein plus drug, protein-drug complex. Protein binding may be divided into intracellular binding, extracellular binding. Mechanism of protein drug binding. Binding of drugs to protein is generally of reversible and irreversible process. Reversible generally involves weak chemical bond such as hydrogen bond, hydrophobic bond, ionic bond and van der Waals forces. Irreversible drug binding through rare arises as a result of covalent binding and is often a reason for the carcinogenicity or tissue toxicity of the drug. Absorption. As we know, the conventional dosage form follow first order kinetics. So when there is a more protein binding, then it disturbs the absorption of equilibrium. Distribution. A protein bound drug in a particular dose particular does not cross the BBB. That means blood barrier membrane, the placental barrier and the glomerulus. Those protein binding decreases the distribution of drugs. Metabolism. Protein binding decrease the metabolism of drug and enhance the biological half-life. Only unbound fractions get metabolized. Example, phenyl butazone and sulfonamide. Elimination. Only one unbound drug is capable of being eliminated. Protein binding prevent the entry of drug to the metabolizing organ, that is liver, and the glomerular filtration. Example, tetracycline is eliminated mainly by glomerular filtration. Systemic solubility of drug. Lipoprotein act as a vehicle for hydrophobic drugs like steroids, heparin, oil-soluble vitamins. Drug action. Protein binding inactivates the drug because sufficient concentration of drug cannot be built up in the receptor site of action. Example, naptoquinone. Sustained release. The complex of drug protein in the blood acts as a reservoir and continuously supply the free drug. Example, Sormine sodium protein binding for anti-dry panosominal action. Diagnosis. The chlorine atom of chloroquinone replaced with radio-labeled iodine-131 can be used for the visualized melanomas of eye and disorders of thyroid gland. Factors affecting protein binding. Drug-related factor, total concentration of drug, protein-related drug. First one, drug-related factor, physicochemical properties of drug, increase in lipophilicity, increase the drug binding with the protein. Total concentration of drug, alteration in drug and protein concentration, alter the drug-protein binding. In protein binding related factor, physicochemical properties of protein, that is lipoprotein bind with lipophilic drug, quantity of protein. This state affect the concentration of protein in blood. Number of binding sites, that is albumin has more number of binding sites. Affinity and magnitude of association constant. Drug interaction, displacement reaction will be happen, and then composition of a drug and normal body constituents, allosteric changes in protein molecule. In patient related factor, that is age, neonate have a low albumin content, those less drug binding. This state alter the drug binding. Binding of drug to blood plasma protein. The binding of drug to plasma protein is reversible. The external or order of binding of drug to plasma protein is albumin and alpha-1 acid glycoprotein, lipoprotein and globulins. Binding of drug to human serum albumin, it is the most abundant plasma protein, that is 59%. It having a molecular weight of 65,000 with a large drug binding capacity. It has a both endogenous components such as fatty acid, bilirubin, as well as the drug bind to HSA. 4 different sites on HSA for the drug binding. That is site 1, site 2, site 3 and site 4. Site 1 is a warfarin and asaproposin binding site. Site 2 is a diaceform binding site. Site 3 is a digoxin binding site. Site 4 is the tamoxifen binding site. Binding of drug to alpha-1 acid glycoprotein is called as a orozomucoid. It has a molecular weight of 44,000. Its plasma concentration range from 0.04 to 0.1 gram per percentage. It binds to number of basic drugs like ibuprofen, lidocaine, propanol, and quinidine. Binding of drug lipoprotein, binding of hydrophobic bonds and non-competitive. The molecular weight 2 to 3-4 lakhs Dalton. Liquid core composed of inside triglyceride and chlorosteryl esters. Outside is a apoprotein. Example acidic and diclofenac. Neutral is cyclosporine and basic chloropromazine. The types are LDL, HDL, VLDL, and microns. Binding of drug to globulins. Alpha-1 globulin, that is transcrotine, corticosteroid binding globin, steroidal drug, thyroxine, and cyclocobalamine, that is vitamin B12, alpha-2 globulin, ceruloplasmin, that is vitamin A, D, E, K is present, beta-1 globin, transferrin, that is paracetamol is present, B2 is globulin, corticonenides, alpha globulins are antigens. Thank you.